Hello everyone. I wanted to start this interview with some background about mental health issues faced by military vets and active duty, specifically PTSD. Post-traumatic stress disorder, aka PTSD, is most commonly known as a byproduct of an event experienced by an individual that leaves them traumatized and makes it hard or difficult to recover from or even live with. With that being said, the person may experience triggers that bring these terrifying moments back to them. This is an increasing issue in the military community because suicide rates related to PTSD and other mental health issues have skyrocketed. According to health.harvard.edu, not only has suicide rates been at their highest in 10 years, but an estimated 300,000 vets of war in Iraq and Afghanistan have been diagnosed with PTSD. This is big for the military community and is something we should be concerned about fixing or making better for the better of our country and for the American people. I have my cousin here to interview. His name is Christian Martinez. And I'm just going to go ahead and start off by asking you if you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I am 32 years old and I enlisted into the Army the summer after my high school graduation, and I've been in the logistics department for about 16 years, and I have been deployed twice already to both Iraq and Kuwait.
Okay, thank you for that. Now I'm just going to go ahead and ask you a series of questions just to get your story on it. And so I'm going to start with the first one. How do you cope with any triggers from PTSD and depression on a daily basis, and what habits have helped you in preventing them as a whole?
So I started by seeking help from a professional therapist. Through that time, I was prescribed antidepressants for my depression and anxiety, and at first, I was really skeptical about taking those because I felt like it wasn't gonna help, but in the long run, it really did help me out, and I stayed away from alcohol and drugs just because I have seen other soldiers just go down that path, and it's not always the best. So that was something I learned to do as a helping mechanism. And I also tried to stay away from things that could trigger me. One being would be loud noises. To this day, I wear noise canceling headphones just because I cannot be around loud noises. So in the public, I'll wear them. Of course, in the work setting, it's kind of harder for me because I can't really wear them, but I've learned to, keep it down, just to ignore everything and block everything out. I did also go to some counseling sessions with some other soldiers. There was many of all ages with the same problem I had, and it was really helpful to hear that I wasn't alone. There was other people who experienced the same thing I did, and so that was also helpful. And also I spent a lot of time with my fiance, so being with him, it was really helpful because he was someone that I could speak out to and express myself to. So he also made me feel like I wasn't such a burden because he understood and listened. So
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Okay, and why do you feel that soldiers specifically men, feel discouraged from receiving the help that they need?
So I feel for that, most men feel like they should be tough, and when they know that they're not doing good and they want to seek that help, they tend to view it as being weak. Like if you're being viewed by others, they may feel discouraged because maybe others may tend to see them as a weakling, and that's why they don't go out and seek the help that they need, because they feel, oh, I have to be like them, I have to be tough and strong-minded, and that's not the case. If you feel like you need the help, you should go and not listen to everyone or feel that way, because it's something you should do.
Yeah, so I guess to kind of like elaborate on that, like military personnel, when they're struggling, it makes it difficult for them to get help, especially if they're like leaders.
Yeah.
Because they're setting the example, and to these individuals, they feel that if they have a problem, if they're struggling, then they're seen as unfit to be a leader, or if they just think really negatively about it.
Yeah, pretty much. I agree with that.
Okay. I also wanted to add that according to BetterHelp.com, 44.2% of active duty soldiers said that they were deterred from seeking mental health services because they feared their unit leadership might treat them differently. Furthermore, 42.9% feared they'd be seen as weak. My next question that I have for you is, have you received counseling or seen a therapist about PTSD? I know you were talking about it earlier, but I guess so. How did you feel getting that help?
So getting the help that I needed didn't even really make me feel discouraged at all. It made me feel seen and heard, and like I could express myself and finally get what was in my mind out. And by going to those therapy sessions, I was able to do that with my therapist, and also like the feeling of not being judged was really helpful, because I felt like I can talk about anything that I wouldn't normally talk about to just anyone, not even most people who were close to me. So to do that with a random stranger, my therapist, was really helpful, and I'm glad that I went to go seek that help.
Yeah, okay. You had brought up earlier going to group counselings. Would you say that maybe like hearing their stories made you feel less alone?
Yeah, because even though there was many different things I went through, I guess I could say I went through a lot less than most of the soldiers did, from what I heard. But the feeling is still there. So knowing that I'm not the only one who felt like the way I did, it was helpful, because again, like, I'm not alone in this. There's many people that feel this way.
Yeah, you could have found like guidance through it.
I couldn't even have gone at all and probably still been a struggle.
Yeah.
But the fact that I did it, it was nice to hear that and learn about other people's experiences.
Okay, thank you. My next question is, in your opinion, does struggling with mental illness affect how you, did it affect how you acted towards your family? So you talked about having a fiance. Congratulations.
Thank you.
If it did affect you, what did you do to solve this issue?
So with that, I can say in the beginning, I was I was really distant with family and people I talked to just because I really didn't want to talk about the past, and I really didn't think, they needed to know about that. And, I felt like me talking about it was almost as if they were going through it, just listening. So I didn't want them to, witness that or like hear about it, the struggle. So after going to see my therapist and being described my antidepressants, it was really helpful, and I did start to talk about it more. And one person who really did help was my fiance, and opening up and finally letting him know what I was thinking and how I felt. That led me to, finally open up. So now when I'm, asked about it, I'm a little bit more comfortable talking about it, and it's just easier. So yeah.
Yeah, I wanna quickly say this again. Thank you for sticking this interview out with me. I know it's probably not the easiest thing, having to talk about trauma and things that you experienced in the military, and I just want to say thank you for taking the time out of your day.
Yes, that is of course.
Okay, so my next question, I'm sorry, I have to look at my notes, is what do you think counselors and military health programs can do better to ensure the wellness of veterans?
I think I had seen a while ago an article about that, and I remember reading that some of the things they had said was maybe to like lend a hand to the families of vets struggling with mental illness, like themselves, and to make sure that they are in a stable living environment.
So like they're not homeless?
Yeah, because
Okay.
there's some that are tend to be just they're homeless, or they have a struggle finding a good stable life after.
I remember reading a couple of articles about veterans and how a lot of them end up homeless, just over different circumstances, but of course, continue.
And then maybe just allowing them to speak what they want to measure in progress. So like, not, we're gonna talk about this and move on. Like, let them talk about it for however long they need to
Like kind of at their own pace?
Yeah, till they're comfortable, and then they'll move on maybe to other topics that they might get asked.
Okay. All right. Thank you. My next question is, how do you feel you have personally been affected by mental illness while serving in the military?
In a more negative or positive way?
Maybe a little bit of both.
So with that, I think personally, I've had a change in the way I've perceived the world and what it has become. I have became more fearful about what could happen to like me and others, even though like I'm far from what happened to me back when I was deployed. Like, I still get that fear like today, like what this could happen to my family or my fiance, the people I'm around. Like, it's sort of weird.
Yeah, the fear it stems from your trauma.
Yeah, and I guess my negative thoughts are sometimes I tend to think that I could have done better, and I sort of feel like I'm sort of like letting myself down, letting my family down, and I don't really know how to, change that. My depression made me feel useless, and on a positive note, As bad as this may sound, going through those traumas and pushing through them and forgetting about them made me a better person that I am today.
Would you say it made you stronger?
Yeah.
And it kind of brought more, I guess, awareness.
Mm-hmm.
As bad as it sounds, you learned more about the world.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. To continue, if you could go back and change the way you dealt with your PTSD and depression, what would you do differently?
I would have communicated with my family a lot sooner and not have left them in the dark like I did. And I would have gotten the help sooner when I started to realize and point out that I knew something was wrong, and I would have put more thought and emphasis and importance to my mental health and, try to find a healthier way to cope with what I was dealing with by speaking out to my family and allowing them to help me.
Yeah, okay. My last question for you is, do you feel that going to therapy is something that soldiers should embrace and feel good about? If you do, why?
Yes, I think that it shows that they want better for themselves and their families, and it proves that they care about themselves and their well-being, and they're able to push themselves more and put over their selfish opinions and maybe even positively influence other soldiers, lower or higher rankings, and to get the help they need if they need it and not feel ashamed by it.
Okay, lastly, I'm going to ask you if you maybe have like a quote of inspiration for anyone who's listening.
Yes, my quote of inspiration is, "Don't be afraid to ask for help. That is the biggest step you'll have to take in the mental wellness journey."
All right. Thank you very much, Christian. It was very nice having you, and I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do this interview.
Yes, I'm glad to help.
Thank you. To conclude, I thought that this would be the best place to insert my survey questions and the results that I got, just because they're very simple questions, but they do have deeper meanings, and I couldn't really connect them into anywhere specific in the entire interview. And yeah, I believe that this is a problem that we should be concerned about, as I mentioned at the beginning, because it may get to a point where it starts affecting more than just the military community. It might grow and expand into an even wider problem. And here are my survey questions and the results. Do you believe veterans and active duty soldiers struggling with PTSD and depression have a difficult time seeking help for it? 98% agreed. Is this stigma of being seen as weak a primary problem in why soldiers are timid and stubborn to get the help that they need? 82% agreed. Do you believe there are better ways of mentioning mental health in military communities and supporting one another through these difficulties? 93% agreed. And lastly, do you believe struggling with mental health makes one feel alone in their suffering? 99% agreed.